Councillor Rodrigues.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to staff. We're still very early in the budget process, and I just want to make sure I read this clearly on page 6, with the increase not to exceed 3.9. So it's a bit of a ceiling. It could be lower, could be a bunch lower. Theoretically, it should not be any higher. And I just want to do the math on this just so nobody's fooling anybody. And not that anybody's trying to whatsoever. But clearly when we had at our executive committee last week, we said it's 3.9%, and that works out to 1.12% is the Pickering share, which sounds pretty reasonable, just a bit over 1%. But thank goodness the school board tends to be 0. We know the region's looking for about 2.35, but if there were 10 agencies taking money out of this pot, and they all went up 10%, they could all just simply argue, oh, but we're just 1% of the budget. 1%, and the whole thing altogether, that's 10%, but we're just responsible for 1%. They could all just be 1%. And because simply enough, our tax base, for those who may not know, the city of Pickering, of all the property tax collected, in round numbers, is about 25%. So if we go up by 4%, we're only 1%. And that's how we get to the 1.1. And if everyone went up 3.9%, if the region did, if the school board did, and if the city of Pickering did, you know what the total would be? 3.9. You know, so we have to be careful how we look at the numbers. There's no deceit intended whatsoever, but we have to go beyond ourselves to address this really clearly and make sure we're not somehow not giving the clearest picture we can about this. So I'd gladly explain it again at a later date, because time is always precious. And I'm really hopeful people are watching from home, and as I asked before, I really want people to become involved in this process. And I would ask staff as well, if we aim for a ceiling not to exceed 3.9, what would happen if we requested of staff come up with an alternate budget, maybe not to exceed, I wouldn't want to say 1.9 because it sounds like you're trying to trick, you know, just 2, say 2%. What would that be, you know? What would you cut out? What would we have to not have? You know, what asphalt wouldn't get laid? What snow wouldn't get removed? How often does the grass get cut? It's a bit rhetorical, but I am serious that I think staff should make, I mean, I know the mayor in previous budget negotiations said, well, it's up to councillors to say what we want to cut back on. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, staff very much know the projects that are due, whether it's things to do with the library, whether it's things on staffing projects, what can be delayed, how can we get money out of development charges. And there's no point in fooling ourselves either, as Councillor O'Connell raised before. Yeah, we don't have to raise much, we'll just take money out of our surplus. Well, you can only do that until you have no more surplus, and then you're stuck. You know, well, we won't spend it, we'll just borrow it, deficit financing. Well, we all know that only works for a certain point until now you got to pay more interest than you can actually even bring in the door. So that doesn't work either. We've got to have a fair, balanced budget. And when I've gone around neighborhoods, I've got to tell you this, I know other councillors must have encountered the same thing. And I know it's part of our job to explain why the numbers are how they are. But at the same time, when some people have great jobs and they're getting great increases. They've got great investments, perhaps. There are some people like that, absolutely. And there's also some people that don't have jobs, and there's also people in between. Or people get a small raise, 1%, 2%, or they got a 3% raise and they had nothing for the next 2 years. Whatever it may be. And we have to be cognizant of all members of our community. And when I've gone around, I'm sure the other councillors have heard this, no, you're killing me. I've heard that phrase, you're killing me with the taxes. And of course we always say, well, it's just, oh, it's not that much really, it's just, you know, $50, $60 a year. That's $1 a week. That's like a cup of coffee. You know, I know, but when you talk to people, they say, I'm paying $6,000 or $8,000 or $4,000 or $9,000 in taxes. And so it's hard to have them understand, gee, you didn't really pay that much more because you're already paying a whole lot to begin with. And so what all this leads to is better communication with property taxpayers. I've sent a little bit of information through our CAO and to our treasurer regarding two programs. Ajax has one on their website, and it's called Ajax Budget Builder. It's a fairly simplified form wherein residents, property taxpayers, can actually input numbers and play. Do you want a little bit more increase in this area, that area? Where do you see the need? Maybe you want the money spent on libraries. That's great. But then what does the total tax work out to? So it's a little program where you get a little bit of involvement from residents. That's part of our community engagement, to get them involved. That's a fairly simplified one. There's another one put out by another company based in Montreal, and they've got it in several cities. I don't have it right. I have it in front of me. I just can't pull it out this second. I did print it. But they use, I think it's North Bay and Kingston and Timmins and a few other cities around. And it's the same kind of thing, only much more elaborate. It's about a $5,000 program for a municipality of our size. And I've been pushing on this theme for, about 3 years now, that, it's not what you pay. You've also got to be able to tell the taxpayers what the heck are you getting. How much do fire trucks cost? We had something at the mall trying to educate and inform residents as to the true costs of running a city. And you can't compare yourself to Toronto for a number of reasons, but those reasons need to be enunciated. You got to be clearly understood, because it's not how much you pay, it's what you're getting, it's the value, and it's the understanding of that value. And if we can't communicate that, we obviously haven't engaged the community, one of our 5 corporate priorities. So we've still got some time between now and the Thursday, February the 13th public meeting, which we're going to try and make it as public as we can. And any time between then and now, they can come to any of the councillors and talk with us. You can be a delegation, come to council, communicate what's wrong, what's right, get some feedback, get some interchange. See where you want the money spent or not spent. We can't make something out of nothing. You can't get blood out of a stone, as they say. So I think we should perhaps look at something like a citizen's budget, perhaps a simplified thing, maybe a little computer program, maybe we can buy one, something where people can feel and see what the numbers are. We've got some links to the budget books. I've got them on my website. The city's got them on their website. But people should be able to see where the heck is the money being spent, And because at the same time they'll be complaining about their roads, their potholes, the bumpy sidewalks. Then again, there are a lot of residents that are appreciative of the many things we do, for any number of reasons. Maybe the fire department came by and rescued them from a car accident. It wasn't a fire, but it certainly saved their life, perhaps. We know 50% of their calls are medical, and maybe that's worth it. Maybe we should have another method of getting out. Maybe instead of sending a whole $1 million fire truck, maybe we should, have a smaller truck and a couple of well-trained men. I'm not sure what all the answers are, but we've got to communicate with each other and residents amongst each other as well. And I can go on, but I know I talked about this last week, and I'd certainly like staff to generate public involvement, public education, public interaction, public understanding. What's it cost? What do you get? What's it worth? And where are we going over time? That's one of the things our treasurer's been aiming at is, and even at the region as well, long range. I mean, you buy a fire truck, well, how long is it going to last before you got to buy another one? We need to understand these things in concrete terms. Staffing costs, where does the money go? And people don't obviously appreciate, I've raised this many times, playground equipment for a small set of monkey bars, $17,000. Garbage can, without the bags, $950. It's arm and a leg. Because people think in terms of, if they had to put something into their house, a treadmill, we bought 5 the first year I was here. I was shocked. 5 treadmills, $40,000. I said, how does that work out? $8,000 a piece. Well, I can do the math, but how much do you have to spend to get really good equipment? And if that's the cost, that's the cost, but let's communicate it. Since we have some more months, I will stop at this point, and I appreciate the indulgence of councillors. I look forward to all the councillors reaching out to residents and property taxpayers, because I know it's a tough go, and we're trying to make the best that we can. I know we all say this, but we have to actually do it. We have to achieve the result. Thank you very much.
Thank you.